Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I'm glad that you got back. I hope you've had a productive and refreshing lunch break. We will now begin our second plenary session on the theme of responding to emerging threats, assessing security landscape and implications for Thailand and beyond. This session will provide a platform for the practitioners' perspectives on the challenges posed by emerging threats and possible ways to overcome them.
And our first esteemed speaker is General Nathapong Praokao, Deputy Chief of Joint Staff, Royal Thai Armed Forces Headquarters. General Nathapong, throughout a distinguished military career spanning more than 3 decades, he has held a wide range of key command, staff, and strategic appointments in both national and international arenas. His extensive experience includes serving as Army Attaché and Acting Defense Attaché to France, Switzerland, and Belgium, Director of the Department of Border Affairs, and senior appointment within the Internal Security Operations Command and the Royal Thai Armed Forces Headquarters. These assignments have provided him with exceptional expertise in defense policy, international military cooperation, border security, and strategic planning. General Nathapong is also a distinguished military scholar. He graduated from the Julajom Klao Royal Military Academy and has completed advanced professional military education at the Army Command and General Staff College, the Joint Services Command and Staff College in the United Kingdom, and the National Defense College of Thailand. In recognition of his outstanding service to the nation, he was awarded a Knight Grand Cordon Special Class of the Most Noble Order of the Crown of Thailand, one of Thailand's highest royal decorations.
Our second panelist is Police General Associate Professor Dr. Thatchai Pita Nilabut. Police General Thatchai is the Deputy Commissioner General of the Royal Thai Police and Director of the Thailand Anti-Trafficking in Persons Centre. He concurrently serves as head of the UNODC Specialized Task Force on cyber scams and trafficking in persons for forced criminality. Previously, he served as commissioner and lecturer at the Royal Police Cadet Academy. An advocate for international policing cooperation, he established a real-time intelligence center known as the IAC War Room to combat transnational cybercrime and human trafficking by closely collaborating with financial institutions, telecommunication service providers, and foreign law enforcement agencies. Police General Thatchai holds a PhD in criminal justice from Sam Houston State University, a master's in public administration from Kentucky State University, and a bachelor's from the Royal Police Cadet Academy.
Our third panelist is Mr. Benedict Hoffman, Deputy Regional Representative for United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime, Regional Office of Southeast Asia and the Pacific based in Bangkok. Mr. Hoffman brings over a decade of experience with UNODC, leading programs on transnational organized crime, illicit trafficking, terrorism, and drug control across multiple regions. Prior to his current role, he served as UNODC Head of Office in Myanmar, overseeing the organization's operations and country program. He also worked at UNODC headquarters in Vienna, where he focused on strategic program planning, strengthening UN partnerships, and enhancing the effectiveness of field operations worldwide. Earlier assignments include program development and management in Eastern Africa, the Middle East, North Africa, Afghanistan, and Southeast Asia. He is widely recognized for his expertise in international crime prevention and regional security cooperation.
And to guide this discussion, we are honored to introduce our moderator, Assistant Professor Dr. Panupat Jittiang. Dr. Panupat is Thailand's representative to the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights for the 2025 to 2027 term. Concurrently, he serves as an assistant professor in the Department of International Relations, Faculty of Political Science, Chulalongkorn University, where he also holds the position of Deputy Dean and founding director of the Nelson Mandela Center for Conflict Resolution, Atrocity Prevention, and Human Security. In addition, he is an advisor to the Minister of Foreign Affairs and serves in several national committees addressing displacement and human rights. Dr. Panupat also works closely with civil society and international partners as the chairperson of the Asylum Access Thailand Foundation and the vice president of the Panyawiti Foundation and a member of the Asia-Pacific Working Group of the Global Action Against Mass Atrocity Crimes. His areas of expertise include forced migration and refugee studies, atrocity prevention, transnational security and human rights, international development, as well as international conflicts in the global south. He holds a BA in International Relations from Chulalongkorn University, an MA in International Development Studies from George Washington University, and a doctorate in Sociology from the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in welcoming our distinguished panelists and our moderator, Dr. Panupat Jittiang, to the stage to begin this timely and important session.
Thank you to our MC, and good afternoon, Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. So welcome to Session 2 of the Thailand Security Dialogue 2026, responding to emerging threats, assessing the security landscape and implication for Thailand and beyond. And as the moderator, and as the MC has already mentioned, my name is Panupat Jittiang from the Department of International Relations, Faculty of Political Science, Chulalongkorn Universities. Ladies and gentlemen, security threats no longer drive neatly or confined to a single institution. A single scam compound nowadays can serve as also a cybercrime hub. It can also be a place where the money laundering happening, a sort of corruption and also a border security concerns. Somehow the defining conditions of these threats is that there is a conversion. Threat connects across the digital and physical world, across licit and illicit economies, and also across national borders. So these very panels, what we are trying to explore is how exactly those threats looks like and how are we going to be able to respond to them. So we have three distinguished panelists joining me, and I will not repeat the profile of all of them once again. And I think that we shall begin. The way that we're going to proceed with this particular panel is that we're going to be proceeding in 2 rounds. The first round, we're going to try to diagnose the landscape of the situations, and then we're going to go on and discuss the response. For each round, each speakers will have 7 minutes, and afterwards they will have times to do the response to a Q&A later on in the session as well. So I will now begin at a very strategic level before moving to the domestic context of Thailand and then the broader regional context. General Dr. Pong, how is the regional security landscapes being reshaped by the growing prominence of non-traditional threats, including cyber threats, transnational organized crime, human trafficking, and gray zone activities? And what new strategic challenge do these developments pose for Thailand and also wider regions? So 7 minutes is yours.
Thank you for the question. First of all, it is great honor and privilege to participate in Thailand Security Dialogue and to have the opportunity to join some thoughts of mine on the challenging security environment on our region. I would like to answer your question divide into two parts. The first one, I would like to mention about the characteristic of the today test. And the second, I will talk a bit about what are the key of the driver. Okay, so the security environment in Southeast Asia is becoming more complex, more connected, and more consequential. It is becoming more and more complex because we cannot look at the threats separately. Since if we look more close onto the threats, we will find much complicated networks behind them. Those networks can involve in online scam, human trafficking, money laundering, also drugs, and so on. This is show that one type of threat can have several forms of crime at the same time. The second, it is become more and more connected because these days criminal can operate across many countries using only mobile phone, only laptop, and also the internet connections. For example, a scam network can operate in one country, recruit people from another, move money to the third party, and the target victims around the world. As a result, threats can move faster and affect many countries at the same time. So our security is increasingly connected. The last characteristic that I would like to mention is about the consequential. Because, for instance, the cyber threat can affect critical infrastructure, can affect financial system, also government service, and public confidence, particularly during time of crisis. In addition, within gray zone, actors may use hybrid warfare such as cyber operation, information operations, economic pressure, terrorist, connective warfare, and so on. So, for my opinion, it is more difficult to determine what we are dealing with. Now, move to the second part of my answer. What are the key drivers of these changes? I would like to highlight into three main factors. The first is rapid digital transformation. The ASEAN is one of the fastest growing digital regions in the world, with more than 500 million internet users. On the one hand, digital technology brings about many benefits to our society, business, banking, communication, education, innovation, and so on. On the other hand, it can also create a disadvantage or weakness. Therefore, the more connected we become, the more opportunities for criminals to exploit. That it is necessary to make the digital future more secure. The second factor is geopolitical competition. In the morning, the previous panel talked a bit about the geopolitics between China and United States. So I don't want to go in deep detail. However, today we see more strategic combination. This competition extends beyond traditional military power into technology, into supply chain, cyberspace, and more. As a result, non-traditional threats are no longer separate from geopolitics. Therefore, Thailand and ASEAN need to remain open to cooperate while enhancing our resilience and protecting our national interests. The third factor is difference in national capacity. ASEAN countries have different levels of capabilities, resources, legal framework, and skilled personnel. These differences can create gaps that hostile actors may exploit across borders. I have the opportunity to join the ASEAN Chief of Defense Force virtual meeting on the 21st of May. This shown on the slide is the solution. I mean, the 11 countries do agree in the threats around the Southeast Asia. You can see in the second column. And the green bullet that every country who focus on that threat. So normally all the CDF agree to solve the security environment together. So I would like to conclude for this question that no country can address these threats alone. That's why we need both stronger national capabilities and stronger regional cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, Generals. I mean, in this round, it's quite interesting because of you already laid out a landscape to us with the I would call it 3C: complex, connected, and also consequential, which I think is a characteristic of the emerging threat that we are actually seeing within our present days. And the key drivers that you're also talking, connected to the panel this morning, focusing on rapid and digital transformation as well as geopolitics, and also different national capacity, and as the slides see now. So now we're going to delve from the big picture into a specific context of Thailand. And we have Police General Dr. Thatchai here with me. I will ask you one question as well, quite long, your question actually. From the law enforcement perspective, how is Thailand's domestic security landscape being reshaped by the convergence of transnational crimes, cyber-enabled threats, human trafficking and illicit activities along the border areas? And in particular, how have borderland illicit enclave evolved in terms of technologies, networks, and also operational capacities? And what implications do they have for Thailand national security and also our public safety as well? Maybe build on what General Nattapong already mentioned. Please.
Thank you so much. It is my honor to be here. And I actually, when I seen the General Nattapong be very right on time, 7 minutes, I feel so threatening. So I hope that I can make it 7 minutes. I think for the landscape, for the overall picture of the cyber scam and human trafficking in Southeast Asia right now, is very interesting. It looks like we can manage what have been happening around Southeast Asia, but actually the things still been going on like it had done before. We can give an example. Neighboring country around Thailand, we still have the cyber scam center locating along the border of Myanmar, between Thailand and Myanmar, between Thailand and Cambodia and Laos, and they just move to another place we have never seen before, like Kanchanaburi province. We have seen the extension from the Mesod, from the Chue Koko to relocate the cyber scam in A1 area across the border between Thailand and Myanmar, Kanchanaburi province. And even we close the border with Cambodia, we still see the scam from Cambodia attacking Thai people even right now. And we have seen the extension from Cambodia to Laos of the cyber scam compound. So I think we still have a threat from neighboring country. And I would like to show you another thing is, even now we still have seen many nationalities being lured to work in cyber scam. In the past couple of months, I have seen Chinese, Japanese, working in cyber scam. We learn using travel to Thailand, using Thailand as transit point to cyber scam compound, even now. And show you some picture. Okay, hold on. Okay, this is the important case I would like to show you. Wang Jing is the actor, Biller, working in the scam compound in Myanmar last year, about, I think, on February. And you can see he came here alone, no forcing, he came here, and the scam compound, the scam center, arranged all the car going to Massaud, arranged all the hotel, and he has known nothing about what's going on. And he ended up working in the cyber scam compound. This thing happens almost every week, using Thailand as transit point. No victim showing they would like to get help from the police. Not at all. They will know they are the victim by the time that they arrive in the cyber scam compound. So what we're going to do? What we're going to do with it? How are we going to prevent people being lured working in the cyber scam compound without knowing about what's going to happen to them eventually? So I think that's the very important question, going back to the General Natapong saying about coordination, information sharing. I think that is the key. Okay, and when we talk about the cyber scam compound, we have to know cyber scam compound in Southeast Asia is not like in Europe, Africa, or South America. Here, the scam compound is pretty quite big, quite great. I can show you the example of them. This is the one from the Cambodia. The Thai military already confiscated the area. And this is the ultimate. Ultimate is the area of Cambodia. This is the area. There are about 15 to 20 buildings right there. And the employee working over there is more than 15,000 to 20,000. That's what it is. When we talk cyber scam compound here, we're talking about people working over there more than 1,000, more than 10,000. It could be 20, 30,000 people working in one single scam compound. So, and okay, sorry, I'll forget. This is the overview picture of the compound at the ultimate. You can see from, I think a lot of you has been seen from the TV, from the media already. This is the building. These are the building. This is the office, and this is the office, and this is the impersonated police station of Vietnam, Brazil, India, Indonesia, Singapore, you name it. This is the Chinese uniform, police Chinese uniform, and they also have the hospital. We are looking something that we are suspicious that they are selling organs, human body. So we are working on it. And they have the detention rooms. There are about 12 detention rooms in the compound. They got electrical devices, and they got everything they need to torture people. So I think I would like to be clear when we talk about the cyber scam compound in Southeast Asia. We mean the big cyber scam compound, 15 to 20,000 people working in one single compound. That's the overall picture for my first session. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, General. What is really important here is that from your presentation just now, you painted a picture and show us that there is a clear corridor of crime around Thailand. I mean, that's something that came out very clearly from what we actually see. But what's more important is that in these different areas or the spotted areas, we also seen the convergence of many things. Because with these big compounds that you showed the picture just now, it also demonstrates how not just a security challenges, but also a different form of human rights violations actually also happening in the areas also, which I think it's really linked back to the General Nattapong points about coordinations. That's why it's really important and the key for response that we may discuss later on. Now let me move next to Mr. Hoffman. So we hear already the regional landscapes. We hear already the domestic challenge, which also extended to the crime corridor that also existing, right? How do transnational criminal networks, they're really exploiting all these different governance gaps, technological advances, and as well as illicit financial economy and weaknesses in these different areas to really establish and also expand their operations across Southeast Asia. So perhaps to build on what General Thachai has mentioned. And also, to what extent are we seeing a greater sort of convergence among these different actors? And what challenge, therefore, it poses to the region? Quite a lengthy number of questions at once.
I'll do my best to keep within 7 minutes, just like my fellow panelists. And just to say, really, to express appreciation for having me join this panel. I feel very small next to two generals, but I'll do my best.
Awesome.
I think one thing I want to do as I try and answer these questions is to really build a little bit also on what General Nattapong already kind of set out as the framework for our panel in a way. And I think the way you put it with the growing complexity, the growing connectedness, and the growing consequentiality. I think it's really a very good concept. And I think building on that a little bit, I also want to talk about how within the broader regional context we're seeing these things contribute to the issue that we're seeing. And I want to talk about it in slightly different terms, but in the end it means the same way. And I'd first talk about the part that you sir referred to as consequential, and basically talk a little bit about how we're seeing the regional criminal ecosystem expand in scale. And I think we heard about different crime types. We heard a lot about scams from General Thachai already. But if we're looking generally at putting together the different threats that we're seeing in the region, and all of them are expanding. And I just put a few graphs on the slides here, just because it helps to visualize a little bit. We're seeing an expansion on the drug side. We're now looking at a drug market in East and Southeast Asia, including also Australia and New Zealand, that's worth about $110 billion per year. That's a lot of money. Now, the reason why it's not worth much more is just because drugs have become very, very cheap, especially here in Southeast Asia. If you look at the pie chart up there, the dark brown part, that's East Asia. It's actually much bigger than what you have in Southeast Asia. If you look at the seizures just above that, actually most of the seizures are in Southeast Asia, not in East Asia. So it just tells you how cheap drugs have become. So if we had applied the same price that drugs had only let's say 5, 6, 7 years ago, it would be worth much more. In the same way, we're looking at the scams. We're now talking about somewhere between almost $90 to $115 billion per year. So we see a lot of money involved there, and this is something that's growing even as we speak. If we, like, some of these figures are from last year. If we did the same thing for this year, we'd be talking already about bigger figures. Adding to that, I'd also want to talk briefly about how we see an expansion or how we see a growing connectivity in terms of geography, and I think it ties nicely into the point of growing connectivity. And the map up here on the left-hand side is slightly different from the one that we've seen before, but essentially shows something quite similar. It's basically showing where raids of scam centers have been taking place over the past few years. And this is an area of the region, an area of the world that we from UNODC have been looking at for quite a long time, the Mekong region, the Golden Triangle. We looked at it from a drug trafficking perspective. We looked at it from a money laundering perspective. We're seeing this scam economy. But the point that I want to make is that this is not the only place where some of these things are happening. And if you look at the part on the right, some of you in this room will be very familiar with this, but this is the region between, the maritime region between Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines. It's referred to as the Sulu and Celebes Sea normally. And what we're seeing there is in different ways than in the Mekong, because it's different crime types, and yet we're seeing sort of the growing connectivity that we've generally seen in the ASEAN region, creating points where crime types and organized crime converge, and these criminal groups are using places like this, places where it's difficult to control, places that have where borders are complicated, like in the Mekong, like in these maritime areas, for their advantages. And that comes back to the governance challenges that you mentioned at the very beginning, which are really important. And the reason why I'm emphasizing this is because this is the chessboard that organized crime is looking at when they're seeing, okay, where do we invest next? Where do we run our operations? These are places that they're looking for, and we're seeing a growing connectivity between them. The last point I want to also take, and it's actually the first concept that General Natapon had talked about, is sort of the general complexity and also the innovation. And that's where technology really plays an important role, and that's something that we've seen really grow. We've seen new technologies being adapted much faster than many of the governments in this region have. I think General Natapon also talked a little bit about digitalization being one of the drivers of all this. And digitalization is something that's incredibly important for this region. It's something that's incredibly important for Thailand, for the other countries. But the truth is that the people who have been the fastest in adopting many of the technologies that are out there have been the criminals running these kind of scam centers and other criminal activity. And what we're seeing is not just sort of new technologies being adopted, but also really technology becoming kind of the operating system for organized crime to work. And what that means is that they're essentially starting also to develop their own solution, develop their own ecosystems that work outside. And one good thing to look at for that is cryptocurrencies, for example. We've seen cryptocurrencies being used very effectively to build money laundering networks in this region, organized crime groups adopting certain cryptocurrencies for the purposes. And once that became more difficult because of many of the operations that we've been seeing, what do? They start building their own cryptocurrencies. And sort of they're kind of moving beyond just using whatever technology is out there towards building technologies and really building their operations around that. And the last point I want to get to is how this complexity and sort of innovation is not just reflected in the technologies that organized crime use, but also in the way that organized crime groups are structured in this region. And I think, traditionally speaking, the part on the left is not entirely new in a way. I think we understand now much better how organized crime groups work. But sort of this part in the strategic leadership, operational management, and the workforce, it's always been there. I think the part that has added a lot to the complexity that we're now seeing is on the right-hand side. It's kind of what we refer to as criminal facilitators. These are basically the people who help the organized crime groups to integrate into local economies, to integrate into local political power structures, to basically make use of some of these governance challenges that we were talking about before. And this is something that I think we're only starting to really understand. But that's also what allows organized crime groups to really rethink how they, for example, invest their resources. I think in the past, when we were talking about investment of criminal proceeds, we were looking at things like the real estate sector, for example. It's a big topic in many countries in the region. But what we're now seeing is that they're very strategic in terms of reinvesting their resources for example, to further exacerbate the governance challenges we're talking about. Investing very strategically, for example, in special economic zones that have a lowered threshold, a lower regulatory framework for investment. And so a lot of that complexity we're really seeing expanding, and that's what it makes it so difficult to grasp these organized crime groups. But it's really important to understand how they work at this level of complexity across the region. So I'll stop here, maybe.
All right, thank you so much, Benny. It's even darker than we thought, right? Now that the pictures that you also painted, because it reinforces the complex, coordinated, and consequential that General Nattapong presented early on. And I also think that one of the key things that you also mentioned, which is quite important, is the term ecosystem. Because of the operations of this that happening in the ecosystem, and it's also served for more or less as a node, linking with other regions now. That's something that it's quite consequential than we could have expected. So now, in the next round, what we're going to do next is we're going to delve into responses. General Nattapong, I would start from you first. Looking at all the pictures that we've been discussing, how are we going to be able to deal with this? Complexities, or what you said, is all connected, and most importantly, very consequential. What would be your suggestions in 7 minutes?
Thank you for the questions. From the Thailand experience, there are several practical lessons that we did. So I would start with the military and law enforcement dimension. Even the military will continue to play an important role in the national security. But in today's security environment, defense organizations also work closely with civilian agencies, the police, financial organizations, service provider, and so on. In the picture, in Thailand, we have established the Border Security Integration Center, or BSIC, to tackle on human trafficking, information technology crimes, drug and narcotics, as shown on the slide. In the blue block is the military organizations that they have responsibility on the border management and protect the integrity. And the red one is the ministry organization from Ministry of Interior, and also the district command and the province command who have responsibility in the area approach. The yellow one, I live with the special force to tackle with the human trafficking and scam online, scam compound. The commander is the Police General Thatchai, so I will leave him to explain more about this organization. So the key success is how we connect these different capabilities and bring them together as a holistic approach. Later, I will explain the outcome that very successful later. But the left on the slide is about the diplomatic dimensions. Is the second lesson from Thailand. Thailand used the established bilateral security mechanism, including the General Border Committee, or GBC, we have with the Cambodia, Laos, and Malaysia. The co-chair is the Ministry of Defense of both countries. Down is the high-level committee, is the HLC. The co-chair is the CDF of both countries. And down there is the RBC and TBC, is co-chaired by the military on the field. So this mechanism were originally designed mainly for border security and border management. However, they can also provide useful platform for addressing cyber scam, human trafficking, drugs, and other forms of transnational crime. So I would like to say that diplomacy is not separate from security. Diplomacy is also a security instrument. The next dimension will be an information. Today, information is one of our most important security resources. But information is useful only when it reaches the right people and the right time. The speed is very important as well. The speed of our response must match or advance the speed of the threats, which are now very fast. Our organization, therefore, need to be connected, coordinated, and able to act together. And one thing is very important, to fight with the fake news, to fight with the misinformation, to build the trust and legitimacy is the strategic communications. I try many platforms of the strategic communication during the conflict between Thai and Cambodia. But finally, we finished with the Joint Integration Center, which is the strategic communication team, which work as the one team. So I would like to recommend that the regional level, ASEAN, can also build on its existing mechanism to make information sharing faster, more prompt, and more useful for operation decision making. Next is the technology that Benedict mentioned already. Is very important. The threat become faster and more sophisticated. So we should make the better use of artificial intelligence or AI. ASEAN could explore an AI-enabled intelligent platform to help analyze large amount of information, to detect fraud and provide early warning and support faster decision making. The picture in the bottom right, not west, I got that from my instructor from the instructor who worked for the Microsoft Thailand. He mentioned that if the horse is the AI, we don't rest with the horse. We just only ride. It means that humans have to ride the AI by training AI, by control AI, by give the order the AI agent. So the last one that I mentioned that I will show you the outcome of the BISC. It's about we have the policy, the nickname, I don't know the real name. The nickname is 3 cuts policy. We cut the electricity supply. We cut the fuel export. We cut the telecommunication signal or internet from the scam compound in the western of Thailand. So about 3 months, we have people who come across the border to work in the scam compound, want to back home. So it's about the over 13 persons foreigner. that come from 47 nations come back to abroad. The nation is the small one in the middle of shown on the slide. So this is the kind of we cooperate with the Thai agency. Not only the government agency, is also the UNOCD as well, I think, and another international. So I would like to finish my answer with this picture. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General. I think you already gave a very broad pictures of the responses that we would have as well. I think you emphasize the whole of government approach, the whole of nations approach, and also the whole of ASEAN approach in response to this, and delve into the different key dimensions of how responses could be, including the strategic communications, informations, and also in terms of trust building, as well as the policies that Thailand pursued before. Now, I would just going to go very deeply more into some of these dimensions that Gerald Natapong already mentioned. Gerald Thachai, how exactly are we doing this in the operational terms? Because we also have additional tools that have been created to pursue this kind of diplomacies and also other things else as well. Please.
Yes, thank you. I would like to share you what we have done in the past few years in Thailand as a law enforcement. Okay. I think this is the first thing that we have done in the past few years. The cyber scam compound, cyber scam and human trafficking syndicate use all Thai infrastructure to contact Thai people and to scam Thai people or people around the world, more than 44 nationalities. And the first thing that we have to tackle is about telecommunications, because they will use Thai infrastructure, Thai telephone, Thai SIM card to call Thai people. We never seen they use Cambodia telephone number to call Thai people, or Myanmar telephone number to call Thai people, as well as the scam compound, scam U.S. citizen. They never use Cambodia telephone number to scam U.S. citizen. They just use U.S. citizen, U.S. SIM card to call U.S. citizen, to scam U.S. citizen. So I think the first thing is very important is we have to tackle the SIM card. Never allow them to use the SIM card of your own country. That's what we have done in the past few years. And the second tier is about the bank account. The scam use only Thai bank account to scam Thai people. They never show Thai people to transfer money from the victim bank account to Cambodia bank account. Not at all. Zero. They use only Thai bank account. So I think this is a second tier that what we have done, in the past few years, to tackle about the meal account in Thailand. The last one is about people. No matter AI has any effectiveness, they still need people to work in the cyber scam compound. They rarely use deep AI to scam people. They use real person to scam people. So we have to make sure that no one from any nationality been there working in the scam compound. I think that's the 3 tiers we have done in the past few years to tackle the root of the cyber scam compound. The second one is I set up the IAC, which the short name is War Room. We put banks representative, about 20 banks in Thailand, sit in the same room, working together, at the same time. Anytime we get complaint from the citizen about they are being scammed, we will tell the bank to freeze the bank account being stolen. And you will see that the money will be gone to another bank account and to another bank account, to another bank, to another bank. We use that manually, like this is one bank, another bank, the other banks. So Natapong will tell me, hey, the money go to your bank. I will try to freeze the money right away. If I cannot, I will tell Benedict, hey, come on, please try to freeze another bank account for me. So this is what we have done for Raw Room, and it is so effective. It's very simple, manually. And we have banks sitting together every day, even now. I think that's the second thing that we have done in the past few years. And the last one, and this one I have to, like General Datapon talk about the setting up the new task force. We are going to extend the war room to include more than bank representative. We will make sure that telecommunication representative will be with us, representative from the National Bank, people from the area of the digital will be with us. So we are going to extend the war room to be a broader picture, that his vision, not mine. Okay, and we are going to do it soon. Okay, I hope that we are going to be right. And the last one, we just introduced the new system called SHIELD. SHIELD system is kind of technology that allow country to share information about the scam compound, IP address, the people being trafficked, the money flow, where they are going. So we're going to share all those important information between countries. And right now we have about there are 10 countries joining us, and as well as three different international organizations, including UNODC. And we just started not in the last few months. I hope that we can have more countries to join us on the SHIELD system, so then we can work together, share information, and be coordinated. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, General Tachai. I think you delve deeper now into all the operational tools. We got from the telecommunications practices and operations to war rooms and also to SHIELDs. Now we see how these two are working and then also expanding to the regional context. And that, of course, as General Datapong mentions about diplomacy as a tool as well. Now let's take a look at the bigger pictures, the regional pictures of the UNODCs when you're operating, Mr. Hoffman. How exactly would things look like in terms of the year ahead when it comes to responses to all these different things? And building based on what we've seen in the context of Thailand, for example, how do you see it in terms of the policies or the operations that needed to be done? Please.
Thank you very much for the question. I think, from our perspective, we're really looking at sort of three broad priority areas for the response, and I think some of what I will say ties into what the two gentlemen next to me have said already. Because the first area of sort of where we see priorities is, and it's not very surprising, I think, also given what you just heard, is really around the issue of coordination. I think, coordination and information sharing is to me also, having looked at this issue now for quite a long time, sort of the key challenge, but also one of the key answers to these issues. And when I say coordination, I mean both the national level and then beyond that also the regional level. And what this looks like at the national level, I think we've actually seen quite well in Thailand in terms of what it could and what it should look like in many ways, right? And I think what General Thachai explained us just now on sort of the different initiatives put in place, the war room, all these things. I think that's really a sort of a journey that Thailand, a process that Thailand has gone through, which I think has been really, really illustrative of how much can be achieved if you just get the right people in the right room. And I don't think that's something that was just done from one day to the other. I think even with General Thachai, we've been working very closely with him and his teams on setting up initially a task force that then transformed into the war room. These days we're looking at anti-scam centers, and so that's the kind of place that brings together not just the police and the different parts of the police here in Thailand, but also, as we just heard, the banks, ideally also telecommunication, telecom operators and others, right? So it's really an important framework that has shown us that has shown a lot of use here in Thailand. And I think we've not really seen the end of it. As we just heard, it will grow further, I think, bringing in telecom operators. But it's also something where I think we need to look at all the different security actors involved. And the reason I emphasize this is because I think we have a very good example also from Thailand, where we've seen sort of the strength that coordination between police and law enforcement authorities on the one hand, and armed forces on the other hand can bring a lot of benefit, and we've seen that very specifically in the drug trade. If you remember the graph that I showed earlier on sort of the increase in drug seizures in the region, I was saying that actually a lot of that increase came from Southeast Asia, and actually a lot of that increase came from here in Thailand. And a lot of that increase came about because the different authorities engaged in drug control, as well as the police, started to work very closely with the armed forces on issues related to border security and information sharing around that time. So we've really seen that creating a lot of impact, drug seizures really going up. It has obviously not resolved the drug issue, but it's been an important part of why Thailand has found a very good way for a few years to respond to this issue. And I think the same can be said about other forms of organized crime around this issue of scam centers, especially given that things like border security play such an important role in this. And then going to the regional level, I think again that's where we see a lot of room, a lot of space for improvement, to have similar, let me call it, building blocks also in other countries. We see this kind of sort of coordination center working well here in Thailand. We see in some other countries in the region, Singapore I think being a very good example as well, also in some of the other countries. But then in other countries, maybe there is not yet such a center, or at least it's just in a very rudimentary form. And so what really needs to happen is to ensure that we have these building blocks in the different countries, and then to bring them together at the regional level. I think sort of that's the end result where we'd be hoping to get somewhere over the next 1 to 3 years going forward. The second part I just want to briefly touch on is the issue of regulation. I think a lot of the things that I was talking about earlier and that you heard also from the other panel members around technology, around investment, these kind of things, all of that in any country in the world is subject to regulatory frameworks, right? So it's just a question of how strong those regulatory frameworks are, and then whether there's capacity to actually enforce these regulatory frameworks. And what we see here in Southeast Asia, in our region, is that we do not have a lot of coherence in regulatory frameworks, especially when it comes to new technologies, things like cryptocurrencies, issues around cybersecurity. Like most of the countries do have frameworks, not all of them, I would say, but they're not very coherent. There are a lot of loopholes in between these different frameworks, and that's exactly what organized crime groups are looking for. That's exactly what allows organized crime groups to basically look at the map of the region and say, okay, here we have now a stronger regulatory framework. We're also seeing more enforcement pressure. Let's just move to that country where we might not have that framework, right? And so strengthening that coherence in regulation, and then as a next step also in enforcement capacity, is really something that will help the region move forward from the current challenges. The last point I want to make, the last sort of priority area, the third one, is around the issue of, and I mentioned it briefly before, what we would call investment risk analysis. Because as I mentioned before, what we see a lot these days is organized crime groups using these vast amounts of money that they have to invest them not just somewhere where they think their money is safe, but to invest them somewhere where they think their money is useful, useful in terms of, for example, undermining the regulatory framework that I was just talking about. For example, investing in a very targeted way in a special economic zone, which essentially creates a framework that exists outside of certain regulatory frameworks, right? So we're seeing a lot of this very strategic thinking about where to invest, but what we're not really seeing that much is strategic thinking on how do we prevent those kind of investments, right? And I mean, if you look, I see a lot of military uniforms here in this room, right? If you think about it in a different terms, right? If you have a military site, anywhere in any of your countries, right? And someone comes and buys the land next to it and builds a tall building from where you have a good, view over that military site. I mean, you'd want to know who is investing there, why they're investing, and where the money is coming from, right? And in some ways, it works in the same way at a sort of in the broader chessboard these days, where we're seeing the same kind of investment by bad people in places that are useful to them, that are incredibly detrimental to sort of the broader economy, the broader security. And we're not seeing the same kind of analysis that is maybe going in some of the other examples that I was just mentioning, right? So that is really something that we see as a priority that will require countries in this region, and that includes Thailand just as other countries in the region, to really take, from a security perspective, a clearer look about who is investing, why are they investing, and where is the money really coming from that they're using. And this is not to say that countries should not want investment. I think it's very clear. We all want investment. It's part of good economic development. But there needs to be a more security lens put onto understanding a little bit more about what investments we really want in the region. I'll stop here, but happy to answer any question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hoffman. We started these panels talking about the 3 C's: complex, connected, consequentials. And now we end with I call it C2R, so coordination, regulations, and also risk analysis. So I think that's the pictures that we are actually seeing, that it's what it needed for the countries and also the regions. But now let's hear the reflection from the floor, whether they agree with our assessment or not, or they see something differently, or what kind of exchange would have. So we have roughly around 10 minutes for the floor to ask questions. We can do it in 2 rounds. So I would invite participants in the room to raise your hand and then ask questions. I will take it in 2 batches. Each round I will do 2 to 3 questions. Please state your name, your affiliations, and if the question directed to any of the panelists, please mention that. And then I think there will be a runner going around with the microphones for you. So the floor is open. There's one hand here already. Please. The microphone is from the front.
Canada.
Yeah, I think we're on. Lieutenant Colonel Derek Weston, Canadian Defense Attaché. Thank you very much for the informative brief. I think your minister started, as part of his remarks, mentioned it's about making the right decisions at the right time. I think one of the C's, sir, you discussed was complexity. Noting that I think a lot of the networks, transnational crimes, use a lot of innovation. They adapt, they change in terms of what these sort of large bureaucratic structures are doing to sort of address the issue, the threat. How would you describe the speed in which such organizations as some of the ones that you mentioned, their ability to sort of adapt in comparison to what these transnational criminal organizations are able to do? Are we collectively here are able to operate at the same speed as them? And if not, what are some of the ways we mitigate the fact that we still have to go through various processes? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe, do we have another hand from any participants? Please, one more there.
Good afternoon. My name is Toby Simon. I am the founder and president of a strategic think tank based in Bangalore. My question is more basic. We have worked in this many years back. When you look at such crimes from a policing perspective, the narrative is often about trying to find the person who has committed it after he has done it. When you look at it, the military, it is also somewhere around that. We find that the only way you could handle this threat much efficiently is if you are able to look at some preventive model where the role of intelligence and information is very important. And my question is, how do you build intelligence around this? Because the adversary has a very clear motive. That is, by doing this, he's making money. Whereas the person who's trying to prevent it, it's only a job that he does it's a job that he does. So the levels of motivation is different, and the thinking is, I'm not saying they're cleverer, but how do you make sure that you are able to stay ahead of him, at least in terms of information and intelligence?
All right. Any other hands? If not, let's come to our panelists. Oh, there's one more here. My apologies.
My name is Don from Naval War College. I think, as far as I know, we are talking about the thing that occurred beyond Thailand jurisdiction. And my perspective is that the country hosts that scam compound doesn't care about this enough. I would like from your assessment that how much that country regard this as a threat or threat to international community. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's maybe come back to the panelists. 3 questions. The first one is a question on speed. The second one is a question on intelligence. And the third one is a question on the threat perception of the country that hosted scam compound. คำถามแรกนะครับเป็นเรื่องของความเร็วเนื่องจากสถานการณ์มีความเร็วเราจะตอบสนองกับความเร็วที่เกิดขึ้นจากภัยคุกคามได้อย่างไรนะครับคำถามที่2เป็นเรื่องของการป้องกันในเชิงของข่าวกรองนะครับเพราะว่าการมีข้อมูลข่าวกรองเป็นสิ่งสำคัญจะทำยังไงในการที่จะไปให้ทันท่วงทีและคำถามที่3มุมมองความมั่นคงของประเทศเหล่านี้เขามองยังไงในฐานะที่เป็นประเทศที่มี scam compound อยู่นะครับ So now I will give each of the panelists a few minutes to think and respond. I don't know who want to go first.
I'll go first. I will go for all the 3 questions asked.
Good.
I just would like to share my thoughts. For the first question about the speed, you remember last year we have seen the abolishment of the scam compound in Chuekoko KK Park. They bomb, they explode. It seemed like the scam compound gone forever. You have seen Cambodian government tackle all the scam compound in their own country. We have seen 100,000 of people, running away from the scam compound in Cambodia. So we thought that, okay, this is about it. This is the end of the cyber scam compound. The fact is, they're still there. They can move 10,000 people, from one location to another. They can move thousands of people from Cambodia just to work in A1 area in Myanmar. They can move people to Laos very easily, So I think the speed, I don't talk about the technology. I talk about the capacity of the scam compound, the network about people, the network to move people, the network to move money. They can move money around the world. Like I talked to FBI in New York. Anytime people over there be scammed, the money goes there, go to Manhattan. They can find people in Manhattan to withdraw the money from the bank very easily. They can, like here in Thailand, we try to stop them from withdrawing money from the bank, but they still have people around country to willing to withdraw money for them. So I think the speed is about the network, not about the technology. We have to tackle the network right away. I think that's the key. The second question is about intelligence. The scam compound in Cambodia, they scam 44 different nationalities. They scam people in America, in Brazil, in Vietnam, in Indonesia. Like I give you example from Ultimate. So I think that's the money will go to like Singapore. The stolen money goes to Singapore sometimes, go to USA, go to Thailand, go to India. They can go anywhere, so they can move money around, they can move people around. So the intelligence is very important. It is about information sharing. It is about coordination. That's what I just say about the SHIELD system, the war room, and the task force that's going to be happen soon. So I think that's the key thing, that we have to sit together. We don't think about technology. We just sit together. I hope that we can level up, we can lift up the war room to the international level, so we can have representatives from countries sitting together, talking to each other anytime they see the money being stolen from someone. So I think that is the key. That is about intelligence. The last one is about the perception of the host country. You have seen the size of the scam compound from Ultimate. 15,000 to 20,000 people employed. Do you think that the host country knows about it? They don't see it. They don't see the surgery. They don't see the detention room. They don't see the people dying, and they don't think about do they get the work permit to work in the scam compound? So I think the host country knows about it. In Myanmar, the scam compound usually stay in the minority area, the tribe group. Cambodia is around the nation. Laos is stay in some certain area. So I think the host country, the people who has the influence in the area has been involved with the scam compound in some extent. So I think that's the answer. Thank you.
Thank you, General. General Nattapong, please.
May I add some about the intelligence from the General Thatchai? I think about the secret agent. I mean, in the compound, scam compound, there are many people, about 1,000 that you mentioned. If we have the secret agent, that is not the scam compound is around Thailand, so that the Thai national can be the secret agents. We need some secret agent from other country to seek the evidence and many things to do the law enforcement. The second one, I think about the GEO-INT is kind of the satellites. If you can, that the General Thatchai mentioned, if you know the place who will build many buildings to be the scam compound, you may know in early that site will be the scam compound. So you can try to stop it. The other thing is we call that OSINT is open source from all the people, how the 10,000 people come to that compound without any transportation, without any hotel to stop by before across. Everybody have the responsibility to stop the online scam problem. Thank you.
Mr. Hoffman. Please.
Okay, just very briefly maybe. I think on the question of speed, I think the answer is very short. I don't think the speed of the response is adequate in terms of comparing how the threat is evolving, and I think that's very clear. And I don't think there's a silver bullet on how to resolve this issue. Just because sort of the growing complexity that we talked about it makes it even more difficult to catch up. But if anything, I think the right word would be streamlining. And we talked a lot about information sharing in these things. That's one part of it. But then there's also sort of the decision-making process, right? And sort of deciding how do we focus these kind of things. And it can work well within countries. I think that's something where we still have room for improvement as well, even here in Thailand, But then if we're talking about cross-border issues, it becomes even worse in a way, because everyone needs to report somewhere up, and you don't always get the right response down, and then it basically gets stuck there, right? So that, I think, is something where sort of a more institutionalized way of working together across borders would be really, really, really important, and would us really get us ahead. On the issue, I think that was raised by the gentleman from a think tank, if I understand correctly, is it's true that with this issue, just like most other crime issues, we're always running behind. Something happened, and then we send the police to try and clean it up, right? And I think that's how policing has always worked, and in some ways works today. I think we've moved a bit beyond that these days. The way that intelligence is being used to better understand issues like this, I think has already allowed us to move forward a lot. And again, that's where there's a lot to learn from the Thai experience, especially from the RTP. But then I think we need to really move beyond that in terms of looking at more forward-looking responses, looking at preventative issues. And some of it I mentioned before. I think some areas, strengthening regulatory frameworks, for example. How do you strengthen the framework within which sort of legitimate activities is possible, is something that's incredibly important, because if you don't have a clear framework of rules, then it's very easy for someone to kind of move back and forth, move around those rules and kind of muddle their way through it in a way, and then create an operating mode based on that. And in the same way, this issue of sort of better analyzing risks around investment, I think that's something that's quite forward-looking, because it prevents organized crime from undermining the very institutional integrity and sort of the economic integrity of the countries that we're hoping to protect. And so I agree. I think preventative measures is something that we need to look at much more. And I think the last point on, I think, the way it was put, that countries don't care. I think that's true in a certain context. I think looking just at the situation with some of the countries, that's been fair to say. But at the same time, we see a lot of changes, right? And I think particularly one of the countries that I think was being referenced, even if not by name, I think we've seen a lot of change over the past, maybe 6 months or so on the response side, on how serious this issue is taken. And I think that throws up the question, why is that the case? And I think that's maybe a more useful question than just asking, do the countries care or not? But it's more, what gets countries to care about something like this? And I think especially if we're looking, just as an example, for example, Cambodia, I think we've seen really a lot of growing international pressure on the country to do something about it, right? And we can always say, well, they're not doing enough, it's not quick enough, it's not sufficient. But there has been a change, and I think that has a lot to do with the concerted international form of pressure. And I think that goes back to one of the bigger issues that's, I think, being discussed here, that also came up in an earlier session, I think, around geopolitics. I think, one thing that I would leave the room with, geopolitics have its space. It all kind of, one way or another, is what we're all doing in our lives, right, to better understand them and sort of navigate them. But this is really an issue where geopolitical tension is really, really fundamentally not helpful, but rather trying to find common interests to sort of direct towards responses, towards directing it towards pressure is I think, really what would be needed for a more effective response.
Thank you. I mean, I want to open another round, but because I'm mindful of the time, because I think we already eat up your break time. Let me just summarize with 3 key takeaways from the panels that we are discussing this afternoon. Number one, what we see clearly is that there is already a convergence. It's become a defining features of the emerging threat, and that's go back to the wording that Mr. Hoffman talked about, the ecosystem. Second thing, the question also come up in terms of speeds and institutional layers, that it becomes something that determine advantage and so on. So better coordination is something very significant here. And the third part, we also discussed about the regional cooperations, how it should become operational, both in terms of information and intelligence, and how it could be streamlined and actionable in terms of that capacities. But then I think one of the bottom lines of our discussion, which is a larger lesson learned, is that resilience begins when our institutions connect as quickly as the threat, and when the national action is also reinforced by the trusted regional cooperations. And with that, on behalf of Thailand Security Dialogue 2026, I would like to thank General Nattapong, Police General Thatchai, and Mr. Hoffman for their candor and also the practical insights, and also thanks to the National Defense Studies. So a big round of applause to our panelists. May I now turn the floor back to our MCs.
Thank you to our esteemed panelists and moderator for the enlightening discussion.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have just concluded our insightful second plenary session. We hope you found the discussions as engaging and thought-provoking as we did. This session highlights the rapid evolutions of global security landscape driven by complex geopolitical dynamics. Discussions center on the shift toward non-traditional security challenges, particularly cybersecurity and traditional crimes.
To present tokens of appreciation, I would now like to invite Air Chief Marshal Phumjai Leksuntharakon, former Commanding General of the National Defense Studies Institute, to present tokens of appreciation to our speakers and moderator and take a group photo with them. Please join me in welcoming Air Chief Marshal Phumjai to the stage. And now for the group photo.
Thank you, our Chief Marshal Phumjai Leksuntharakon, and our sincere appreciation to all our speakers for their exceptional insight during the second plenary session. Your contributions have greatly enriched our dialogue today.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we will now take a very short 10-minute break. You can find the afternoon break refreshments and snacks in the same location as this morning, right in front of the Grand Hall on this floor. If you were unlucky enough not to be here this morning, please just follow the crowd. Since we're running a bit late from lunch, please take your refreshments from the stands outside and feel free to consume them in here while we go into the next session. Thank you.
And we ask that you return promptly at 1500 for third plenary session, our last session for today. Thank you.
right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've had a refreshing break. We will now begin our third and final plenary session for today on the theme of the digital battlefield, the role of AI, robotics, and non-kinetic warfare. This session will provide a platform for discussion on the impact of new digital technology and their potential impact on the battlefield and military doctrine.
So our first esteemed speaker is Associate Professor Dr. Supan Tangchit Kusonman, President of CMKL University. Dr. Supan served as President of CMKL University and Chair of Doctoral Program in Biomedical Engineering at King Mongkut Institute of Technology, Rat Kabang. He holds a PhD from the University of Wisconsin-Madison and has spent over 2 decades driving academic innovation, global institutional partnerships, and research in engineering, artificial intelligence, and healthcare technology. Beyond his primary academic leadership, Dr. Supan serves on key national advisory boards, including the Electronic Transactions Development Agency and the Council of Rachamankara University Technology Isan, a former Thai government scholarship recipient and alumnus of the University of Pennsylvania. He actively collaborates with international institutions to bridge higher education, emerging technology, and workforce development. As a frequent keynote speaker and panelist, Dr. Supan brings a strategic perspective on digital transformation and the future of higher education in Southeast Asia. He is passionate about cultivating global talent ecosystems and turn academic research into real-world societal impact.
Next, we have His Excellency Ambassador Sujan Ramachandra Chinoy, the Director General of the Manohar Parrikar Institute for Defense Studies and Analyses, New Delhi. A career diplomat from 1981 to 2018, he was India's ambassador to Japan and Mexico and the Consul General in Shanghai and Sydney, with postings in Saudi Arabia and the permanent mission to the United Nations in New York. Throughout his long career, he dealt with political, security, defense, trade, and economic issues. He was the chair of the Think 20 engagement group for India's G20 presidency. A specialist on China, East Asia, and political security military issues, he headed the India-China Diplomatic and Military Expert Group, negotiating confidence-building measures with China on the boundary dispute from 1996 to 2000. At the National Security Council Secretariat from 2008 to 2012, he handled external and internal security policy issues. A polyglot, he speaks fluent Mandarin and is conversant in Japanese, German, French, and Spanish. He is the author of World Upside Down, India Recalibrates Its Geopolitics, and Global Tumult, India as a Pole Star, and has edited several books on defense, security, and international relations.
Our third panelist is Dr. Mahisorn Wongpati, CEO of HG Robotics Thailand. Dr. Mahisorn is a robotics engineer and entrepreneur with 20 years of experience building unmanned systems, PhD in computer science, robotics from Keio University on a MEXT scholarship, plus bachelor's and master in computer engineering from Chulalongkorn University. Since 2011, he has co-founded and led High Ground and HG Robotics, where he now serves as CEO and builds Tiger Drone, the HGMC hybrid robot and drone fleet management platform, and inspections and agricultural drone lines. Earlier work includes medium-sized UAV integrations for the Royal Thai Air Force, AUV development with Kasetsart University for PTTEP, and embedded robotics at NDR and Toshiba Tech in Japan.
And to guide our discussion today, we are honored to introduce our moderator, Dr. Wit Sittiwekin, moderator and presenter at The Standard, Thailand. Dr. Wit is one of Thailand's most respected journalists, television anchors, and public commentators, with more than a decade of experience in broadcast journalism and public affairs. He currently hosts Morning Wealth and the highly acclaimed 8-Minute History podcast with the Standard News Agency, where he is widely recognized for his insightful analyses of economics, history, and international affairs. Prior to his career in the media, Dr. Wit held senior corporate communications positions at BMW and Siam Commercial Bank. He earned his bachelor's in political science from Chulalongkorn University, a master's from the London School of Economics and Political Science, and a PhD from the University of Southampton, the United Kingdom.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in welcoming our distinguished panelists and our moderator, Dr. Wit Sittiwekin, to the stage to begin this timely and important section.
Good afternoon, everyone. Ambassador, gentlemen. Well, I've just been aware that this is the last session of the day before you go off for dinner. So I really hope that all of you are still awake. If not, the three gentlemen upon the stage here will be responsible for exciting all of you with a very new topic to discuss today. That's the digital battlefield, the role of AI, robotics, and non-kinetic warfare. Well, first of all, can I ask Dr. Supan first? Well, nowadays, in the 21st century, we see the emergence of new technology, AI, artificial intelligence, robotics, cybersecurity, and many more. How can you put all of these elements, technological emergence, into the framework of security and battlefield? Because people say that now the battlefield is not limited to the physical battlefield, but it is broader than that, which was defined in the 20th century. Can you give us the groundwork as well as the landscape where all of us can understand how can these new technologies fit into the new framework of battlefield?
Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for joining our session. To answer your questions, we know that nowadays AI and robotics have played a great role and have changed the way we live, in many different aspects. So, in terms of traditional military force warfare and also in the so-called non-kinetics, but let us, lay down the three areas where AI, can help us in improving the way we live and to make our life more secure. So the three aspects that I have put down on the slide is the first one is for AI, how AI can help humanity, how it can help us, make our lives better. And the second one is the aspect of military. How can AI help military to operate at a more efficient manner and maybe safer for the personnel involved, and extend to the third part, which is the defense and security. So as we all know, I think all of us, everyone has used AI, and there are many different areas for general population that AI can help us. For example, the first one is the area of healthcare. For example, I work with a hospital on a project to use AI to help come up with a system where we can detect, the location of the abnormal heart tissue that causes, arrhythmia. So in the past, we have to rely on experts, which are pretty rare. So with the technology, with AI, we can come up with a system where we bring better access to the general population. So we can have the system that can help, and they don't have to rely on meeting the experts. And also, we can use AI and robotics to help with patients who might have difficulties or maybe disabled. We can use exoskeleton and system like that to help them. AI can also be extended to work or in the situation where the work that we have to do is risky. Maybe, let's say there is a big natural disaster, maybe earthquake or flooding, and it's very difficult to access the location. Maybe we can send drones to get to the people that are suffering, so we don't have to send personnel and risk them, falling into another kind of trouble. Also, for education, right? Because we now can have a system where we can have students learn at their own pace. Each person is a little bit different, so we can make it fun, and they can go on and proceed the course at their own ability, right? They don't have to, everyone not have to study at the same pace. And other areas, we have AI to help us for scientific discovery. We all know during COVID time that people use AI to come up with vaccine. And the second one is AI for military, right? So with AI, we can process a lot of information. In the past, maybe there is a lot of information, but we cannot comprehend, we cannot see the big picture. With AI, we can use it to help us see what is happening, and maybe also give us different scenarios of, what if we take certain action, what will affect the outcome of that action. We can also use AI, to help with the logistics and supply in the military, and also predictive maintenance. We can have a system that detect what is, the state of the equipment or the system involved in the military. And if there is something that is not normal, then we alert the controller, the human, and then we can have the problem solved before it becomes a major operational failure. And next, for defense, right? So that's extending not just military force, but also defense in terms of national security. We can now use AI to help keep our nation more secure, more resilient, and have better system to check the infrastructure before there are problems that are too late to solve. We can use AI in the case of cybersecurity. We can have system that detect abnormal activities, and we can also have AI that can take actions automatically as well. I would also like to talk about the challenges and also what we do. So with all these things that AI can do, there are challenges. The first one would be the reliability. How can we make sure that the system that we use is reliable? And also the second one is bias and transparency. How we can have system that is transparent and we can trace back and we can see the reasoning. And cybersecurity, once we have a lot of, our system now, we have a bigger system and more data are coming in, so there are more points that are at risk of cybersecurity as well. And the other two are escalation risk. With the use of AI in military, now we can respond a lot faster and maybe sometimes too fast, and that can escalate the problems between, say, two countries. And the last one is the issue of accountability. We give a lot of authority to AI, but in the end, we have to have human in the loop to be accountable. So the things that we have to make sure quickly is that we must have human control in our AI system. We must assign appropriate authority. Sometimes we need human in the loop. Sometimes we do human on the loop. We can let the system run automatically, but human will have ability to take control if we need to. And we need to make sure that our users are well trained and so that they can take control, take the accountability of AI. So this is a quick overview of how AI can affect us. And for the as we can see, there are some aspects that are traditional and some that are non-kinetic, maybe in the form of cyber attack, in the form of misinformation, and we have heard of some countries interfering with other countries' politics, with the trying to sway the public trust in the government and things like that. So there are many different areas that we have to take into account in today's security.
Well, thank you very much. After having listened to the execution of AI, artificial intelligence, and also robotic, now we become aware of how technologies can reshape the battlefield as well as the warfare in the future. And now, I think that today we are very lucky and we are very honored to have here with us Ambassador Shinoy, whom I would say, after having read his profile, he has the world map on his palm. He really been every corners of the globe. So since your duty was in the 20th century, across into 21st century, with the emergence of new technologies like AI and so on, which can perform in many different ways. How can you see these new technologies, let's say AI, robotics, cybersecurity, and so on, and cyber attack, reshape the nature of battlefield as well as warfare in our time? Ambassador.
Good afternoon to you all, and thank you, Dr. Witt, for that question. Before I begin, I wish to thank General Siddha Mahasandana of the National Defense Studies Institute for his very kind invitation to me. And I also want to acknowledge the presence of the Ambassador of India, His Excellency Mr. Puneet Agarwal, who has joined us today. Before I answer your question, I think it's entirely appropriate to also give a little bit of context from my perspective, which is the perspective of someone who has practiced geopolitics. I look at it through the lens of geopolitics, as I've done for about 45 years now. Old habits die hard. The first point here is that as the speakers this morning and earlier this afternoon suggested, there is a very uncertain world that we're dealing with today. There is major power contestation. The multilateral order is not able to seek the kind of convergence that it must on important issues, including on digital technologies and artificial intelligence. And both trade and technology are being weaponized. But trade is fungible. It's very difficult to control. It's run by, what you call structural differences between economies. But when it comes to high-end technologies, there is genuine scope for restrictions, for export control regimes. And this is where both big tech and governments play a role. They have invested a lot of money in high-end technologies like artificial intelligence. And therefore, you see today that the world is fracturing into virtually isolated camps. You have the Pax Silica on the one hand, with about 7 founding members, another 24 that have joined in later, another 35 that are associated with this effort. And then you have also got the World Artificial Intelligence Cooperation Organization, WICO, which China has set up. And so this is really indicative of where we are headed, that especially in AI, big governments and big tech are going to play a role, and the world is fracturing into camps. Now, when we look at it in terms of the opportunities and challenges, we can see that a preponderant part of the GPU processing capacity in the world today is controlled by just one country. The United States controls 75%. China, which is also considered a very big player, controls about 15%. And the rest of the world is in what remains, which is 10%. And in that space, we have to all try to see if we can secure that kind of access to processing capacities. And it's not very easy, because when you look at it from the perspective of the global south, for example, you can see that access is not readily assured. There are countries like the UAE that have been put into a category, a special category called A5 by the United States, with license-free access to some of the highest AI technologies. In Saudi Arabia's case, they have spent about $20 billion investing in Western companies and have also received some kind of access. But for the rest of us, we have to find our own feet. Either we cooperate among ourselves, or we go in for massive investments, as India has done, to create what you call self-sufficiency and self-reliance. We call it Atmanirbhar Bharat, a self-reliant India. So India's AI mission, for example, is something that's absorbing about $1.2 billion. About 75 niche area AI technologies have been identified for domestic development. We are trying to create cheap access for our companies to processing capacity, and also trying to create our sovereign foundation models, both large language models and also small language models. So unless all of us kind of do this, it's going to be very difficult. Now, coming to the main question, let me say that most of the world today is living in an era of no war, no peace. It's some kind of netherworld in which we exist. Warfare has obviously become multi-domain. It's cliched to say that. But the battlefield increasingly has no limits and edges. It's not very clearly identified today. In fact, the battlefield could be running through a power grid, through critical infrastructure, like a hospital, like a bank. It's not just the soldier that is very important. It's also the engineer who sits behind a computer screen. And in fact, the engineer could be a little more dangerous than the soldier out on the front line. So we are living in a world where the emphasis is also shifted from outright destruction of the adversary to disruption. We are in a situation where there are no outright winners, victors, and no outright losers. And most countries maintain a capacity to use asymmetrical means to bridge absolute gaps in military power. So this is a very different scenario in which we live. The emphasis today, I think, has shifted in terms of R&D from mere invention to more of what we might call innovation and integration of networks. So for example, if AI is the brain, you have robotics as the body. It's the networks that provide the nervous system. And unless we emphasize all these, it's going to be very difficult. The other point I want to make is the change in terms of the nature of the battlefield. There's something which we can call cost conversion. For example, this is now an era in which you have to create offense which is cheap and make defense for the adversary very expensive, which is why you see that $4 million type of Patriot missiles are being used to shoot down Shahid drones, which are worth maybe $20,000 to $30,000. So instead of imposing outright victory on the adversary, you are now in a situation where the battlefield makes the cost of defense very expensive. There are also the challenges of non-kinetic attacks. We live in an era where there is no absolute war that is declared. War is in fact ongoing. Even in peacetime, you have to deal with cyber attacks. You have to deal with adversaries maybe sitting in your critical infrastructure for years together without being identified. You may all recall this program which the Americans have called the Volt Typhoon, whereby they identified, in their view, Chinese malware sitting in American critical infrastructure for about 5 years without being discovered in the power grid, in water supply grids, in transportation, communications. And so these are the challenges today, quite apart from information and cognitive warfare, psyops, etc., with deep fakes created by artificial intelligence. And the one thing that worries me is also the advent of robotics on the battlefield. Of course, we are a few years away from really deployable bipedal robotics. What we have seen so far and what has been referred earlier is quadrupeds in terms of, so-called robotic dogs and things like that on the battlefield. But even so, I think soon we will see these robotic soldiers of a certain type also become judgmental on the battlefield. They will soon take on the ideological, religious, and such other bias of the programmers. And I think that will reduce the scope for bravery, chivalry, notions of mercy. It will reduce the importance of the Geneva Conventions or, the laws governing warfare or treatment of prisoners of war. In future, it is not the Geneva Conventions that will be able to try anyone for war crimes, because you can't try robots on a battlefield that have taken on human biases. So I think this is where I would conclude my brief remarks and emphasize that the battlefield is changing both in terms of not just the hardware, but also software and also the morality and the ethics part.
Well, thank you very much for your eye-opening. It's an extremely comprehensive answer for that. I do like that. Sometimes the engineers can become more dangerous than a regiment of soldiers, which is really true. But the point here is that in the past, when we talk about warfare, we think about the confined scope, military, artillery, infantry, cavalry, air force. But now everything seems to be security related. As Dr. Supan has earlier mentioned, that people can sway the public opinion of the people in other countries as well. So this really shakes the security. And as far as the role of states is concerned, in this particular context, what should be the role of the states? Because the states cannot, of course, enlarge their roles. Everything is security. What would you think the role of the state should be in this point of time?
Well, I think it's going to take a whole of government, whole of nation, whole of people approach. These threats cannot be dealt with in isolation, and no country can go it alone. The challenge today is to see how we are going to work with one another. What is the level of trust that we can develop? What is the level of access that we can give to one another in dealing with such scenarios and challenges of the future? From a national perspective, and especially from a military perspective, I think the preparations have to be for the kind of out-of-box challenges that a country is likely to face in the future. Most militaries tend to engage in red teaming and such other exercises. But most militaries also practice red teaming based on work that they do with their own higher echelons or lower echelons. I think red teaming of the future when it comes to AI threats will have to be, the digital medium, will have to be a civil-military integration, a civil-military fusion, a fusion between defense, public sector undertakings that work directly with the government, and also the private sector that is often ahead of the curve. Unless we do this sort of work during peacetime, when there are no attacks, it will be impossible to deal with the real AI threat, the digital threats, when they actually arise. The second thing is, in my view, resilience. And resilience in our systems can only be built if we have war-gamed the various scenarios in every part of critical, infrastructure. We must make sure that there is what you call a siloed approach to various, like in a ship, you have compartments that allow a ship to float, even if one part of the ship is compromised and water flows in. Similarly, we will have to create these safety valves in integrated systems to inure the entire system from collapsing because of vulnerability of the weakest part of that chain. We must also create systems in which there is contrived and deliberate redundancy, planned redundancy, so that functionality of integrated networks is not lost. Then I also think that attribution today being so difficult in terms of cyber attacks and things like that, it's very important to have team sport in this regard. We have to work together with like-minded countries as a team because no country can reliably trace these attacks all by themselves. Even when you talked about the scam industry, what you're really telling us is that if there is a regional problem, it will require some regional solutions, especially when you have HR moving across borders. You have Thailand and Cambodia and others facing a similar problem. You can't really go it alone. So I think that's very important. The other thing is to impose costs below the threshold. Since attacks come below the threshold, the cost imposition has also got to be below the threshold. So in an era in which there is hybrid wars, there is no war, no peace kind of situation, there is an incredible ability for state and non-state actors to work together. Increasingly, the private sector is playing a direct role in warfare on the battlefield. You have people like Elon Musk, for example, SpaceX, who can or cannot, may or may not provide you Starlink. And whether or not Ukraine can continue to fight a war will depend on a private individual. When Mr. Musk says no to Starlink for, Ukraine trying to regain the Crimea Peninsula, then Ukraine abandons that plan. But Ukraine does have Starlink when it comes to fighting battles in areas which it regards Russia as having taken over. So we cannot really do this alone. We have to work with everyone. My, 2 or 3 other points are that we have to build rules. Right now, we really don't have rules of the road. And rules of the road in the digital space, in the cyberspace, are already very complicated. And these are going to get even more complicated in an era in which artificial intelligence is going to be used for both positive and negative objectives. And how do we do this is the problem if the world is increasingly fractured on AI, especially when it comes to defense and security. The indications are that the world is descending into camps on AI, and these will be mutually exclusive in the future. If you participate in the one, then you will be a pariah in the other, or you will always be suspect. So even though we live in a globalized world where so much else is fungible and accessible, high-end technologies of this nature are not going to give us that kind of satisfaction. So I think we need to create a new kind of values-based future for AI in which we will pause to think about the horrendous consequences of warfare of the future, in which mercifully we are not yet there, but lethal autonomous weapons systems will also take over, and this can wreak havoc on the battlefield of the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That sounds very comprehensive. I like that. The civil-military fusion. No one can do it alone. We can't work it in a silo. In the next part, we talk a little bit later with the ambassador. But now, I wish to have a questions with Dr. Mahison here. Well, people talk about the independence and sometimes technology sovereignty, but we, Thai people, we don't know where are we in terms of the development of AI and robotics as far as security and defense is concerned. Could you give us the overview of how far the Thai AI and robotics has been doing so far?
Okay, so thank you and nice to meet you everyone. So my name is Chang, elephant. Maybe you can have a Chang beer after this. Yeah, okay. So my background a little bit. I have a PhD in robotics from Keio University in Japan. I've been in like robot competitions, on many competitions since year 2000. So I first hand on robotics and AI from the day that machine learning, primitive AI, a lot of if, then else, do things in the field. Right now, so we are on at the time that AI that is something that truly changing what we are working on right now. So I have 5 talking points that I want to more on the practical side on what I learned so far in the past few months, not years. The 20 years of experience in robotics just changed a lot in the past few months with the introduction of the latest AI. So in this room, just in this room, anyone have cloud subscription? Can you show your hand? So a few.
Less than 10.
Yeah, and how much did you pay? Are you go to the 200 USD already or still on like 20 USD or free version? So I am on the 200 plus something else, right? So before I go to that, let I show you like 5 talking point. One is that the asymmetry war that will happen. So I will show you. Another thing is that sometimes the equipment that we get from the foreign actually don't tell us the truth on what they can do and they cannot. And the third point is that right now for drones or robotics and everything, the key thing is not just the composite airframe anymore. It's the smallest component inside that if we cannot have it, then we don't have it. The fourth point is like right now, in terms of the warfare, the open architecture is also divided into many types. We have Sapien from European country. We also have ATAC from the US. And where are we in terms of us, right? And another thing is that the proof of the use. I mean, when you're talking about AI or drone or robotics in the battlefield or in the actual operation, how many hours that thing is actually operating, that is the key, right? So let me get back to the first point first. So in my hand, actually is also my brain on the LLM Wiki that someone might know, right? So that is a thing. First is asymmetry warfare. So from you told that the Shahed versus the expensive warhead that go into the battlefield right now. People are do like 3D printing the interceptor drones, combining with the camera from the mobile phone, right? Using open source software together with the open source autopilot. All of this is difficult a years ago. Difficult to integrate a years ago. But right now, with the help of the AI in engineer, which is quite dangerous sometimes in the battlefield, like me, I have more like, not just me, everyone that can access, feel like having a superpower that can do a lot of things that actually need the guidance from the security person on what we should do and what we should not do. Right. With the power of the AI, combining of the shell part become much more easier and more efficient, and that lead to the AI-driven tool development that now the limit is imagination of the developer and user, right? Right now, mobile phone have like 200 megapixel camera coming in. Samsung S25, the flagship one, a few 20 or 30,000 Thai baht. That 200 megapixel camera sensor on the phone with the right software on it, pointing to the sky. You can have the automatic drone detection in the daytime with S. That is the thing that could happen. Okay? And another thing is that I have a chance to work on GPS. And there's a GPS maker that do have the output to tell us that there is like, is GPS is jamming or not, is being jammed or not, right? And most of the time, those signal is not coming out, even though the GPS is being jammed. Something like that. So that means the equipment or the hardware that coming off the shelf also sometimes need a very good verification on that, right? So that is the thing. Another thing is that right now, autonomous, and AI is cheap. You mean we can buy, we can use, and we feel that is something that's like internet, water, electricity. We can access and we can use it for anything that we want. But actually, it's being controlled quite heavily. Right now, for example, if you get a drone from a big maker from China, right now, enterprise version of that drone, it had a high resolution log that do everything, logging all the behavior of the drone in the air. However, when it crashes, you cannot read the log. It encrypted, and only them can read it. Only log file that you can have is a simple text file with low resolution log. So you actually don't know what is happening, even though it's your own drones. And this happens all the time. Just a few days ago, Anthropic, the biggest AI provider right now, announced that they will have like the footprint or fingerprint, something that embed in the answer that it gives to us. So they know what is actually being used and happening. That is the thing. Another thing is that even with that $200 subscription, when you ask something cross the line or something that looks suspicious, for example, I'm working on a lot of hardware debugging, something like that, with the questions about memory, questions about accessing the low-level functionality of the hardware is tripped. So it don't want to work for me. It just deny on that kind of request. What I have to do, I switch to another AI provider from China, which is more permissive and can continue to do the work for me. However, I'm working on a normal thing, not so sensitive thing yet. So that is something that already limit us on what we can do or what we cannot do. And if we don't have this running in this soil with the full control, I would say they just cut us out and we are out of the game. So that is the thing. And the last one is, when we're talking about AI, robotics, or anything, non-kinetic and everything, we need to use it, prove it, and learn from what actually happened in the real world, in the field. And that is something that we, I would say Thailand, might not have a systematically way to do that. A lot of people or country that go into like the conflict right now, especially on Ukraine or Russia or US, I think they learn a lot from that already. And now we learn just from news, maybe YouTube, or some article that actually generated by another AI also. So that is the thing that I think inconvenient truth that we have to consider.
Sure. If we have time, I would ask him more about the technological dependency, self-reliance, because finally we need to have sovereignty in technology. Once Dr. Maison mentioned it's your own drone, but you cannot trace back the data. So this is the lack of security in a way. So in the next round, if time allows, I might ask him a little bit further about how to maintain the self-reliance of technology. And now I wish to ask the ambassador once more about this. Once you mentioned one of the keywords in which I capture from your last answer was the civil-military fusion, the integration together. Everyone needs to work together. But if the states need to expand their security work into everywhere, it is pretty difficult for them. Once they have to concentrate on new threat, but at the same time, they need to undermine their previous strength. What should be the right balance in maintaining the right portfolio of security of the 21st century?
I think we need to draw a distinction between civil-military fusion and civil-military integration. I'm not suggesting that there should be civil-military integration. When we speak of integration, it should be more of armed forces integrating among themselves. For example, if you have the three services, the Army, Navy, and Air Force, they need to go beyond simply operational fusion, which they may be doing anyways when they cooperate with each other. It is the armed forces that require structural changes in order to create command structures that are integrated so that they operate seamlessly, that they are all able to see the same information on the same screen and then bring their individual capabilities to bear in their either areas of responsibility or areas of interest, depending on what their mandate is. But civil-military fusion is very much called for today because as we look at technologies that are developing, these are not necessarily all developing in the public sector space. In the United States, for example, DARPA identifies key technologies, and most of these key technologies are developed by various private sector players. These are private players who then come up with the latest versions and iterations of the weaponry that you see, whether it is fighter planes or whether it is certain, armed drones, etc., the Predators, and things of the sort. So it is a requirement of the day that we create systems whereby the talent that is available, the capital that is available in the economy, especially in the private sector, these are also utilized. In India's case, for example, 25% of the research and development budget of the Defense Research and Development Organization is reserved entirely for the private sector. 75% of the capital procurement budget today in our defense budget is also now reserved for the domestic procurements, because none of us can really simply afford to keep buying new weaponry. These are new gadgets, new toys, and sometimes these are very difficult to operate. Sometimes the supply chains are vulnerable when it comes to a lot of imported weapon systems. I mean, take artillery, for example. You could buy the latest 155 mm howitzers from an overseas supplier and then find that you run out of artillery shells. So you can have the gun, but you don't have the artillery shells to go with it. So you have to build domestic supply chains which enable you to retain your strategic autonomy and decision-making authority in the battle space also. Europe has suffered recently as a result of running out of many things, including artillery shells. This has, of course, created new supply chains. New players have come up. A Republic of Korea that did not make anything much in the past suddenly became a great provider of artillery shells or the K9 howitzer or the K2 tanks and many other things. Even the Democratic People's Republic of Korea suddenly emerged as a great producer and provider of artillery shells to the other side. You've seen it in the case of drones. Ukraine, surprisingly, had only about 7 drone companies before the war started, and they made hardly any, few thousand drones per year. And now they are making, they're making 4 million drones, and their target for 2026, 27 is 7 million drones. Of course, earlier you have the Turkish experience of the Azerbaijan-Armenia war, where the Bakhtiar drones suddenly came up. Now you have, first-person view drones from which nobody can hide. And artificial intelligence that we are talking about today is ensuring that now generals can be identified on the battlefield exactly in which, bunker they are sitting in or which armored vehicle they are sitting in. Even soldiers will be identified through facial recognition technologies. All this is not going to be done in the public sector space. No government can do this alone. So there is an amalgam of technologies that is emerging, and some of this will still come from abroad. But it will have to be from trusted supply chains and trusted partners, so that in the middle of a war, you are not held to hostage, held to ransom by decisions being made elsewhere about your ability to wage war. If you wage war, you have to take it to its logical conclusion. So I think we have to keep this in mind. May I just say that smaller countries, I mean small not in terms of their importance, but in terms of geography, also today find it difficult to locate their entire military-industrial complex in one geography. That, I think, creates for a certain inherent vulnerability. So when you look at risk mitigation strategies, it is, I think, common sense that multiple military-industrial complexes have to be built, either in your own geography with inbuilt redundancies, but also potentially in trusted partner countries. And I think this is being done by many. Israel is doing it. I can tell you Japan, which has just reviewed its own, long-standing export control regulations, and is now ready to export even lethal technologies to at least the 17 partner countries with which it has some defense export arrangements, will be looking to expand its military-industrial complex in order to ensure its own survival. So I think this is how we must go to the future. Can I just make one or two more points?
Why not? Please.
Yeah. I think it's very important to for the militaries to have obviously a combined picture. As we say, the Army, Navy, Air Force must be on the same page. But they must also be able to survive if the weakest of the chain is attacked. The whole system cannot afford to go down. So multiple such structures will have to be built in a network, in which all ISR capabilities, land-based, sea-based, space-based, are integrated with a fused picture. But as I said earlier, built-in redundancies, single chain of command is very important. Also, the authority that is delegated in the age of AI will have to be foolproof. It will have to guard against spoofing, which we see in the maritime theater. We see spoofing in terms of GPS for aircraft. Even civilian and merchant navy is experiencing these attacks in a hybrid kind of situation. So that authority that you give to the lower level commanders will have to account for these false flag type of operations and spoofing and things of the sort. Then it's very important to also keep older technologies alive. I think in this rush to acquire the latest technologies and the latest iterations, people forget that legacy systems have a place. In fact, in India's experience, we have quite successfully integrated both latest technologies and legacy, you might call them, for a want of a better word, analog weapons systems also together into a fused, defense command and control structure. Legacy weapons like the L-70 air defense systems or the Zu-23 integrated with the latest, surface-to-air missiles I mean, these can today be integrated with innovation, not necessarily invention, but better innovation and networking. I was reading a novel. I don't know how many of you have read it, but I'm told it's quite popular now. It's a novel titled Ghost Fleet, a novel of the next World War by Singer and August Cole. It's a hypothetical scenario in which the United States Navy is fighting a war in the future with the People's Republic of China. Its entire fleet in this novel of F-35 aircraft, latest with the latest gadgetry, networked, are actually hacked into because the Americans had forgotten that somewhere along the production line, some part of the microchips that went into the F-35 aircraft actually came from China. And the Chinese were able to hack into that entire fleet. And after losing the initial battles, according to this hypothetical, imaginary, fictional novel, the Americans then decide to go in for their legacy F-18 Hornets, which are stripped clean of everything that smacks of technology. It's just bare bones, and no electronics on board, no, radar signatures, nothing that can actually be hacked into. And then they have a kind of comeback in the battle. So I think moral of the story here is don't be in a rush to modernize too quickly. You do it in an iterated manner. Keep using some legacy systems as well. Try to integrate them, upgrade them through domestic capabilities to create a fused battle space command and control system.
By the way, Ambassador, is that a hypothetical situation? Chinese tiny parts in F-35. It sounds like real somehow. Anyway, you remind me of one thing. Military industry complex. You remind me of Dwight Eisenhower, the person who defined the term, the fusion between industry and military altogether. Another question for the ambassador. So far, we have been discussing and focusing upon operational superiority as well as operational effectiveness. But how can we maintain the balance between these two? I mean, operational effectiveness, superiority, with something else. Human control, accountability, responsible use.
I must have done some bad karma to have invited upon myself so many questions. And as I told you, I tend to approach things from the geopolitical lens. But let me say that everything in technology is also a trade-off. Trade-off against cost, a trade-off against access to technology, real access to codes and IP, etc. Even in transfer of technology, it's not always that you get the know-how. Sometimes it's simply built to print kind of approach. So there's always a trade-off. And I think, especially for countries that do not have very large military industrial complexes, they will have to continue to rely on imported systems. But one big trade-off there, I think, is while importing things in a trusted and reliable manner, one must keep building self-reliance. So self-reliance is something that one cannot afford to ignore. Even Europe today is going in for a degree of self-reliance. I was reading their approach paper to defense preparedness at 2030. Many of you might have seen it as students of the change that is underway across Europe. And they're trying to integrate their entire military-industrial complex, logistical nodes, infrastructure hubs, even acquisition, procurement, standards, specifications. All this is being integrated across Europe today. Not because they think they have been completely abandoned by the United States. NATO still remains intact in many ways, but the Europeans are thinking about their own security. So there is a degree of self-reliance, I think, that must also creep in. I personally believe that one of the other trade-offs that we will have to keep in mind is to use technology in a responsible manner and to allow human control to remain in place, especially in nuclear command and control chains. But this applies more broadly to all very destructive weapon systems that can take lots of lives. Because if we give up human control in favor of artificial intelligence and programmed algorithms, etc., we will reach a stage where it'll be very difficult to account for our actions in the future. Destructive actions, acts of war, etc. And I think the other part is, the resilience that is created as a group in terms of convergence, in terms of the rules of the road. So there I think if the UN structures are not helping at this stage, though they are weakened, I think a regional dialogue among like-minded countries can also take place. I think ASEAN in a way is quite forward-looking in this regard because you have a history of working together. But that sort of dialogue broadly helps countries of the global south also to develop some convergence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Due to the fact that the ambassador is a treasure of wisdom, I therefore ask many questions to him. I wish I have asked longer, but unfortunately the time does not allow me to do so. By the way, same question to Dr. Supan. Well, we are focusing upon operational superiority, operational effectiveness, but how can we make the balance between these two and human control, resilience, responsible use? In your point of view, please.
Okay, thank you very much. As I'm the university professor, I have a slide again. So the thing that we have to keep in mind is that AI and other robotic system, they are wonderful and all, but for military use and for security, we have to make sure that we keep this responsible autonomy by design. That means whatever we do, we have to think about how responsible our AI system is from the very beginning by having a proper human-machine teaming. So let's look at the simple decision action cycle for the military: sense, decision, and action. So for sensing, for example, in the first thing that we do, we gather a lot of information. So when we design our military or the system that we use for security, we have to design so that our data is traceable. We know, what the quality of the data, where it's from, and we can trace back to the origin. In the past, maybe we don't have enough data, but nowadays we have maybe too much data. It's the other extreme. So our system should be able to maybe clean the data, make sure that we have checking system, that the data can be trusted. And then when we have this, all the data in our system, then AI can give us, a big picture of what is going on, and we can then check. So human will have to be in the loop to make the decision, to check whether something is abnormal, and then we can take some actions. And the next part is the decision part. So when we after we have the data, so when we want to make the decision, we have to set some boundaries of what we can and cannot do, right? For example, if we have a situation where we detect abnormal activities at the border, then we have to first we get the data from sensing, and then we decide what to do. So you have to set boundary of what kind of actions that we can take. Should we maybe take a soft approach, to do some warning, or we take some military actions. So the system, the decision has to be appropriate, right? And also our AI system that we use to help make our decision, it has to be able to explain the reasoning behind the decision that it suggests, and also it must be able to present different scenarios. Okay, so maybe plan A, plan B, and plan C, and human will have the final say, in what to do. So in this way, we put human as the one with the authority to make the final decision. And then in the final loop of our decision action cycle is acting. So when we take action, we have to be able to see the consequences, so AI can give us different scenario, different results of our actions, and make sure that we can maybe stop it, at any point that we want, because sometimes, there are local information, like in the situation at the boundary, and we have some local knowledge or some of other aspects that we could not get from using all these sensors. They don't give us enough information. We can then do something. We can take authority. So here is a quick look at what we do. A lot of time we use AI to do something, and then we think of the security, the responsible system or the authority afterwards, and that can create a lot of problems. It will be more effective if we think about authority and how we make our system to be responsible from the very beginning, so that we can have a good balance between giving the autonomy to AI and robots, and also having a system that we make sure that it is taking proper actions and not doing something that we did not intend to. So a quick look is whatever we do to sense, to decide, or to act, we have to define the boundary, the limits of what the system can and cannot do. And then we have to test our AI robotic system to make sure that we have a good, valid, and it's not doing something that will cause unintended consequences. And then we put appropriate authority. I think I mentioned that in the last round. Sometimes you can give a lot of authority to the system. For example, in the cybersecurity attack, you can say, okay, just do something quickly. And then you can accept maybe you make a mistake, it's okay. But sometimes a system, you cannot give the automatic decision to the AI system. So depending on what kind of system, what kind of actions we have to think about what kind of appropriate authority we give to that system. And The fourth one is we have to keep monitoring the system and to make sure that it is functioning as intended, and we can override it at any time. The fifth action is to record everything so that we can trace back, we can learn from the situation, the results, and then we can update our doctrine, right? We can have a good practice of what to do in this situation in the future, and then finally we review the whole system. So we have to think about designing the system with responsible autonomy from the very beginning to make sure that we have a good balance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I think we are in the last 10 minutes, and I wish to ask the questions that I had in mind after the answers from Dr. Mahisorn. Each and every country needs to maintain the technological self-reliance or sovereignty. How can we, Thailand, integrate the ecosystems, not only the security side, but also universities, startups, entrepreneurs, in order to work together to ensure that Thai would have some sovereignty or self-reliance in terms of technology?
You want a complex or simple question? A simple answer?
As long as you can manage that within 10 minutes.
Simple answer is that people want to be rich. So that means if we can build entrepreneur that can work on this and can sell this to the user and get paid on time with a good profit margin, then everyone will jump to this and do everything that you want.
Wow.
That is simple answer.
Simple but true.
But difficult.
But difficult but true.
Yeah, that is the thing that if that happens, if you're looking at this in Japan, Singapore, US, or developed country, you will see that the startup there, even the paper plane, the paper drone, get promoted by the prime minister and try to push that into the industrial side so that Japan can have cheap paper drone in the time of the need. If we're looking at how many paper factory that we have in Thailand, and if that become a direction of our combat for like very asymmetric warfare, I will do that tomorrow if you want. I have 3D printer in my car right now. Yeah, something like that. So the simple question is that we need supporting economic. We need supporting strategy, and that will not just drive Thai company. All the startups around the world will come and help us. And with that direction, then we can export. We make more money, right? And what we are at right now, we are good, very, very good as become like the user, buyer. And we are so afraid of opening up what we just bought to see what inside, because that will void the voluntary. And no one will come fix for you. That is the hard truth that we have now. So, yeah. Okay, a little bit more complicated. Okay, so this is something that we cannot just build in 1 or 2 days. So I competed in robot competition since my first year in the university. My team grew like 20, 30, 100 people. Like the professor built a lot of robotics students and trying to create the robotics and AI economics. After 20 years has passed, I think only me left still doing this. 100% on robotics and AI related. Another just do something else already. Right. So that means this country are not that supportive. That is the hard fact that we have to say first. And we change our mind and direction so fast. Nanotech, AI, one something new coming in, we put that on the spotlight. We're going to do this. And then just stop supporting the things that we should push forward. I think Professor feel the same thing, right? But a lot of people still keep pushing. So that means the right support with the right resource and the right direction is something that is lacking in this country. Why I say this? Because I work with many clients from another country. I learned that what they are doing is not just they want to do that. They're guided by the direction, by the need and the demand of the country on what they should do. But here, we just do what we have to do to survive. And we don't know who's going to use what we are making. And that is the hard fact. If we see the defense company, drone company in Thailand, now they are dying. Many just gone already, right? The AI, the data center, everything that coming in, those is something that coming to support or uplifting the AI and robotics that we needed here, or we just get a few tax paying, some under BOI, and we get nothing. Yeah, so that is a thing that if we don't talk this straightforward, I don't think things will change.
You remind me of Al Gore, Inconvenient Truth. It's the truth that we don't want to talk about. It's ecology. And also you remind me of one thing. The Jeep during the Second World War. The Dwight Eisenhower, the commander, supreme commander of the European field, said, we cannot win a war without a Jeep. Because the US government and the army supported the development of the Jeep from many prototypes. So this is good examples. This is the truth. By the way, we have got around 5 minutes here. Are there any kind of final remarks from the speakers on the stage? Yeah. Start with.
Well, I just want to make a small point here that from the point of view of countries that are represented in this room and broadly speaking on behalf of the Global South, I think we have to seek AI for all. AI should not be an exclusive domain in the future. And I might tell you that India has always emphasized the idea of AI for all in terms of open access. Because otherwise, we will head into yet another age of colonization. And this will be a digital and AI colonization. Because if we don't have access, as people said this morning, to power or to chips or to infrastructure or to models or to applications, then what exactly are we going to do when major powers are moving away ineluctably with their own technologies? So AI for all is very important. And I think the Global South needs to take a proactive view of how we want to achieve this, because apart from potential data sets, most developing countries have nothing else to offer. They don't have the power that's required. They don't have the software. They don't have the infrastructure. They don't have the models. But it's not like the United States of America racing ahead on frontier models. It's not like China racing ahead with open source and open weight models that are available. So we will have to find some niche area for ourselves. And I think if the countries of the Global South come together to debate and discuss this, as we did when India hosted the AI Impact Summit in New Delhi earlier this year, then we will have to keep talking about AI for all, use our resources to leverage, better deals out of those that have these technologies.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Big round of applause for the ambassador. Ajahn Suban, any final remarks from your side?
Okay, thank you. So I would like to second what Dr. Mahaisorn said about, how we are having some problems with developing AI and robotics in this country. So I hope that our people can come together and think of long-term investment. We have to think of the future and make sure that we continuously support people like the private sector, university, or in the military to come together and have a team that can be the backbone of the country AI defense system. And for the general application of AI, like I mentioned before, we have to think of security, think of the responsible system, think of the responsible autonomy from the very beginning so that we have a very good and effective AI system. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Big round of applause for Dr. Supan. Dr. Maison, any final words? Final of the final. Finalissima.
Yeah, everyone's still fighting and still have a high hope on that. I mean, we will be able to develop a useful robotics and AI for this country and this world. So I think, I mean, fighting is one thing, but making life better for everyone is something. And I do believe in AI for everyone, because right now, they cut down the subscription. We doomed.
Big round of applause for Dr. Mahison. Well, that's why we are here together, in order to brainstorm what would be the next key milestone for all of us. That means we work together, we identify the problems, we find the solutions, and we achieve the common goal. There are many, many key takeaways today. AI for all, advancement, civil military fusion, and many more. So, big round of applause for the three speakers on the stage. Well, thank you very much. Now I return the floor to the two MCs over there. Thank you very much.
Thank you to our esteemed panelists and moderator for the enlightening discussion.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have just concluded today's final plenary session with a comprehensive survey of the technological landscape, the benefits of new technology, especially in increasing access to knowledge, information and learning, as well as their impact on the battlefield and the realm of security. These impacts include greater capacity for information processing, scenario projections, and logistical tasks. There are also challenges including reliability, transparency, unequal access to processing power, the lack of a coherent governing framework and strategy, and the loss of the human dimension in conflicts. The ways and means to resolve these challenges will certainly need to be discussed further, but at another time. For the moment, we would like to take a moment to express our heartfelt thanks to our distinguished speakers for their invaluable contributions.
I would now like to invite General Sittha Mahasantana, the Commanding General of the National Defense Study Institute, to the stage to present the tokens of appreciation to our speakers. Please, sir. And next will be group photo section.
Thank you, General Sittha, and our sincere appreciation to all our speakers and moderator for their insights during this third and final plenary session for today. Your contributions have greatly enriched our dialogue.
Ladies and gentlemen, this evening we are delighted to invite the distinguished guests to the official dinner, which will commence at 1800 in the Grand Hall, which is this one. Please note that attendance is by invitation only.
Registration will take place at the foyer in front of the Grand Hall from 1800 to 1815 hours, where welcome drinks and a selection of appetizers will be served. The dinner will take place in the Grand Hall, so this room. So please take all your personal belongings with you, otherwise there may be losses. The official dinner will be graciously hosted by General Ukrit Buntanon, Chief of Defense Forces, Royal Thai Armed Forces, Thailand.
We will also have the distinct honor of welcoming Professor Dr. Surakiat Sathyanthai, former Deputy Prime Minister of Thailand, who will deliver a special address entitled Security Amid Global Uncertainty.
Guests will also be treated to get a captivating Thai cultural performance, Nataya Glong Suk, or the Dance of the War Drums, inspired by the legendary Glong Sabat Chai, the victory drums of the ancient Lanna kingdom, which once ruled northern Thailand. This vibrant performance symbolizes the courage, unity, and the enduring martial spirit of the Thai people.
We look forward to welcoming you this evening for an enjoyable occasion of fellowship, meaningful conversations, and cultural appreciation. So thank you, and we wish you a pleasant evening.
Thank you. สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีค่ะ